Hi, everybody. Great to have you with us today for our webinar about sort your SharePoint out, a really hot topic at the moment that many people are interested about. Multiple reasons, with new things coming down the pipeline from Microsoft, with new technology advancing, and also I think it's just time where we're starting to really think about how we engage with our employees with great experiences. So I'm really pleased today that Carly and I are able to share this session with you. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Alex Graves and I'm the Chief Visionary Officer at Silicon Reef. We're a Microsoft 365 partner, and really looking forward to telling you all about how SharePoint can be sorted out and how we can really help you do it. And I'll hand over to Carly to introduce herself.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. I'm Carly Murray. I head up the internal comms side of the business at the surgery. So we're a creative comms agency, and we work in very close partnership with Alex and all the guys at Silicon Reef. They are our go-to trusted partner for all things Office 365 related. So I'm going to be representing the internal comms community today. I'm going to be posing your burning questions to Alex. So please do post your questions throughout. Are you ready to be in the hot seat, Alex?
I think I'm ready to be in the hot seat. Yeah, we were joking before. It feels a little bit like Mastermind, and I should have one of those spinning black chairs, and I've got 60 seconds to answer. But yeah, I'm ready for a hot seat session. So as Carly said, use the Q&A. So you've got the Q&A option at the top. We've got people who are going to be monitoring that. And also, rather than putting it into the chat, just please use the Q&A so we can actually make sure we get to all of the questions that are asked. Also, one of the things that we would encourage is if you agree with something that we say, or if you love it, please use the reactions, because I really like to get a bit of two-way feedback as we're doing this. So please use reactions as we're going. So yeah, Carly, let's.
So I've got an easy question to kind of kickstart you off with. Have you seen Stacey Solomon's Sort Your Life Out?
No, I know who Stacey Solomon is. She's the singer lady, right? But I don't know what her sorting her life out is.
Yeah, so it's a UK program. So I'll explain it to those who haven't seen it. I absolutely love it. So Stacey Solomon and her team, they'll help families out who've got in a real mess with their house. You know, there's like stuff everywhere. It's just built up over years. You can't move in the house, and it's kind of really impacting their lives. There's always a bit of an emotional story because there'll be a reason why they've got themselves into a bit of a state. Stacey Solomon and her team clear out the whole house. The family have to get rid of 50% of their belongings before 50% can come back in. But when it comes back in the house, obviously Stacey Solomon and her team, they can create lots of lovely storage, and there's a box for everything, a place for everything. Everything's got a label. It's just amazing. And there's such a look of relief and satisfaction on that family's face when they come back into the house and realize that they can start living their kind of lives properly again. So my question to you, Alex, is can you help our audience sort their SharePoint out?
SharePoint, yes, sort your house out. I'm not the best practical guy at doing that sort of thing. I do love a good tidy and a good sort, but storage and all those sorts of things, yeah, get somebody in to do that. But with SharePoint, absolutely, I can help with that. Building blocks and structure of like reorganizing, it's a really good principle. So some of the things that we'll cover today are about how you can present your content. What I'm not going to be covering though is things around tagging, labeling, the back end side of things where you do the organization. I'll probably more talk about the presentation bit, the bit that people, when they walk into your house after Stacey Solomon's been in, oh wow, look at that, wow, look around me, it's amazing. Meanwhile, everything is shoved in a back room somewhere that you can't actually see. But the presentation piece is what we'll talk about today.
Yeah, great. Perfect. Shall we kickstart with a poll then, see where our audience is at?
Go for it. Yeah. So Emma and Amanda, would you mind kickstarting a poll to tell us a little bit about where people are with their SharePoint journey and how they feel about it? And then I'll tell you a little bit more about how I think SharePoint can be a bit of a, I'll use the same house analogy, I guess, as a Lego house or a set of building blocks.
I like the Lego analogy.
If you could take a moment to hit that poll, please. Start to have a look at some of the results that are coming in. Okay, so just while you're doing that, and again, I guess, Carly, do you want me to tell you a little bit about why I think it's kind of like a bit like Lego, actually? I think it was the first thing we were going to cover off.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have a son who absolutely adores Lego, and one of the things that he loves to do, and again, back to the Stacey Solomon thing, is like tip everything out, see what's going on. I remember when I was a kid, I used to get all my Lego blocks, chuck them out on the floor, and then see what I could make. And I think Lego and SharePoint, they can actually be seen as quite similar because they're a set of building blocks that you have a set of instructions that you can follow, like a framework and a guideline. But really, you can be as creative as you want to be, and you can take it in different angles that you want to try and build. And I think SharePoint is like Lego because you start with a foundation, and if you think about that, building a house with different rooms, and then you're laying up your different bricks, and you lay it all out, and you want to add one section here, one section there. But it's always adaptable. You can take it apart, adapt to new things. You can get more Lego bricks from your pile and add them in as well. And I also think another reason probably why it's quite like Lego is because, Lego through the years, it's gone to from the basic kind of blocks, but you've got the Technic Lego, a bit more advanced for people that want to do a bit more. And you've got the ability to add on those extra layers to really make it more suitable for your age as you're growing up in a Lego analogy, but also for your organization as it matures. And you can start to think about, well, actually, we're beyond that basic level now. We're moving into a maturity phase where actually our organizational needs have changed. We start to need to think about how we can layer different bricks in to start meeting the needs of our people. And actually, the Lego brick analogy is really good because you can start to say, we can take it to basic, that's really quick and easy. But then let's evolve it. How do we build upon those blocks? And one of the things, if I just take it back to the now more SharePoint analogy, is the things that make up the page. So you've got layout of content on a page. So you have a page within a site, and you can have columns, you can have rows, you can have different web parts. And the web parts are the elements, the blocks that make up the content presentation on the page. And how you present that really impacts the audience and what they consume, how they engage with it. And then the ability to keep a structure like Lego, like a nice framework, is a really important aspect to that, to then be able to amend them and layer up, but also to make sure it's a consistent flow as you're going through your different pages. It feels like a good flow with a nice navigation along the top. So in the SharePoint world, you use your pages and you use your web parts to present content that makes sense to your audience.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Does it make sense to our audience? Does actually, are they going to find it easy to put their building blocks together? Or is it going to be one of those big complex ones with a 70-page manual on how you put it together?
I do love a challenge. There's always a Christmas challenge in our house to build a Lego house at Christmas, a Christmas house. So yeah, look forward to that one.
Cool.
So I guess one of the things I also wanted to address was the why we did this webinar and the whole concept of the sort your SharePoint out, because historically people have felt pain with it. And I guess, Carly, I would like to know a little bit more about your experience, because you're wearing the internal comms hat here. You're putting me in the hot seat as saying, is SharePoint really as bad as everybody thinks it is? And I'd like to know a little bit more about your experience, Carly, when it comes to intranets and what you've heard over the years, but what you're hearing today as well.
Yeah. So, well, I do a lot of internal communication audits, and we look at, how well communication channels are working or not, among other things. And intranets is always a hot topic. Even if you've got a good intranet, people will have lots to say about it, which is, they can see the opportunity that it can do more. Could we do this with the internet? Could we do that? They've always got lots of ideas and suggestions, which is great because, it's valuable and they can see the opportunity to make it more valuable. If you've created a beast, and I think the most commonly used term that I've heard over the years to describe an internet is the beast. If you've created a beast, then you'll just hear that loud and clear when you talk to your people about kind of the internet, and it kind of it gets in the way of their kind of day-to-day work lives. If you ask people, actually, you know, how do you kind of ideally in an ideal world, how do you want to find out what's going on in the business? Of course, things like face-to-face and line manager, talking to line managers, that's always going to come out in the top positions. But typically an intranet will come out maybe third, fourth, fifth, sixth place, you know, so people definitely see an intranet and they want it in their, you know, the mix of things of, you know, ways that they can find out what's happening in the business. They want to be able to self-serve and kind of find information kind of quickly and easily. And if you don't have an intranet and you talk to your people, then what will come out is frustrations that they're having around not being able to self-serve and find information that they need to be able to do their jobs. And they'll talk about, can we have a central hub or a one-stop shop or a one source of truth? So an intranet is seen as, you know, basic kind of, you know, hygiene factor. It's, you know, an expectation. And, you know, I really feel that, you know, if you want people to kind of, you know, go there and use it and stay there, that it's got to look good. You know, even if it's really well organized, but doesn't look good, people aren't going to want to hang around. You're going to put people off from the get-go. So I put a poll out recently on LinkedIn to find out kind of whether people felt like SharePoint could look as good as an external brand site, right? And why not? You know, maybe it's a little bit stretched too far, but why can't your internal look as good as your kind of external kind of shop window? And 42% said absolutely not. No way, Carly. So my question to you, Alex, is can SharePoint look perhaps better than a lot of people think it can?
And again, like I feel like the Stacey Solomon show thing now where I'm being put in the spotlight, but yeah, it can genuinely look a lot better. And I think if I go back to some of the pain points that I've heard probably over the last decade, where SharePoint has suffered because, you know, what was known as classic SharePoint back in the day, it was just really a basic set of blocks that really didn't have a lot of presentation options, and you had to do your best with your corporate imagery just to try and make it work. But nowadays, I'm really pleased to say that in modern SharePoint, as it's now known, not only has the interface, and again, across multiple devices as well, not just your desktop, improved, but it's also much easier to manage. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you an example where
You're going to show us an example that looks good, a
I'll
SharePoint
show
that looks
you
good.
an example that actually, here we go. So I'll show you on the left-hand side. This is what you're used to when you think about SharePoint as a set of building blocks. And you know, you've got your top section where your content goes. You have a right-hand panel, perhaps with some key information and some dashboard information of links to things. And this is just a SharePoint template that Microsoft provides you with a basic set of building blocks. And then on this right-hand side, it's something a little bit perhaps cleaner. I've tried to keep the brand similar. We've tried to keep the same kind of colors between the demos here to try and make sure it looks like you're working within a corporate organization with a brand and a theme. But actually, you're using those more accentuating colors of perhaps a yellow, the different types of teal, and using your imagery to highlight content and to really make it feel part of the organization brand. And I think one of the things that you said, like, can it look like a website? Absolutely, it can do, because if you look at some organizations' websites, it really reflects the brand and who they are as an organization, and it attracts talent. It attracts people saying, "Oh, yeah, that looks great. I feel like I could be attached to that organization." And in this hybrid world we're in now, you should think about that. Like, if you're not going into an office as regularly as you used to, being able to feel part of the organization and reflect the brand. And I'm in an office today that's attached to a brewery company, and everywhere you go around here, you know, I'm in a room now, and behind me on the wall, there's pictures of rice and hops and things like that. Why can't your intranet reflect that and feel like you're part of the organization too? So I'd love to get some reactions to know from you guys, thumbs up and hearts and anything like that, whether you think it should do that, and is it a piece that's missing from your intranet today?
Can I pose you a couple of questions then, Alex?
Yeah.
From our audience. So is this example, so question from Miranda. Hey, Miranda, I know Miranda. Is this example all built with out-of-the-box functionality?
So left-hand side, yes. Right-hand side, no. So right-hand side is using some enhanced functionality. And that's, again, when I think about, let's go back to Lego. Basic building blocks. Left-hand side, bit more mature as an organization, Lego Technic perhaps, on the right hand side, making it feel a little bit more like your organization extending from the foundations that Lego provides you. I'll just show you one more example actually of something that can be done quite quickly. So we did a 7-day transformation with an organization it was their before state on the left and their after state on the right. And again, Miranda's question, like the right hand side is using a little bit more the Lego Technic. Yeah, Wedge, I knew you'd like that one. So the Lego Technic on the right to enhance and take it to that advanced level, basic on the left hand side.
Okay, cool. Another quick question from Miranda. Do you need to be using SharePoint for document management in order for a SharePoint intranet to work?
Yeah, because you've got to have content. The content lives in SharePoint. Document management, again, thinking about, perhaps we'll come to governance a bit later on, Carly, but I think thinking about where things sit in the organizational structure, and again, to use the classic term when you're thinking about intranets, the single source of truth or a one-stop shop or a hub, that's where that content should be surfaced, all that key content that's relevant for all of your people. So yeah, you need to have your documents that are relevant to all of the organization. Again, intranet should be available to everybody. And then again, you're thinking about your content governance structure, about where things live. You need to make sure that content is accessible and surfaced with the right level of access open to everybody in your organization to surface it through your intranet content.
Okay. And then we've got a question from Kelly. So what are the cons of using SharePoint as an intranet versus the majority of intranet providers?
Yeah, so the cons, I would say, with SharePoint are it's very locked into the Microsoft ecosystem. So I'm assuming that many of you today who are on the call, you already have a SharePoint intranet or exploring the opportunity that SharePoint can give you. I think that, again, is this a con, or perhaps it's not so much a con, but the license that Microsoft provides you with the basic foundation, it gives you the entry-level foundation, and they want you to try and do more. So Viva Connections, for example, it gives you the opportunity to pull your intranet homepage into Teams. But if you're a bit more of a complex organization, perhaps with multiple entities within it, you need to then buy a premium license for doing that, to be able to create multiple entry points for your organization with the personalization to perhaps a brand or multiple brands within an organization. So it's a bit of an actual con, perhaps, in the fact that you have to then upgrade, you have to pay a little bit more, and rather than taking the entry level approach with buying something off the shelf which is already ready to go, that's perhaps not a Microsoft product.
Okay, thank you. Another question coming in thick and fast, Alex, from Swami, another pros and cons question. So if we think about custom development, then it's good to use custom components instead of out of the box components.
Yeah, so custom components, and again, I'm not going to get technical for the guys on the call. Built in the right way, they can be accessible on your SharePoint pages, but also work across mobile devices and Teams as well. The great thing as well is with SharePoint is you can do things like pull Power Apps, which are your way of creating business applications. You can surface them through SharePoint pages as well. And it's something called the SPFX framework, and that's as technical as I'm going to get, I promise you. These are the things that the framework needs to be built in, and that's a custom component that's available for working on SharePoint and across Teams as well.
Okay, and then another question related to the visuals that you were just showing there, Alex. So from Rob, are the elements stroke web parts in the developed intranet examples as easy to update and change as the out of the box options?
Yeah, so again, built well, and again, thinking about modern SharePoint as opposed to classic SharePoint, it's all about that simple owner interface, being able to update your content. And again, I'm not going to do a demo on how to do it today, but built in the right way, and I think about that previous question, built in the right way and matching it to a sensible design decisions in what you actually need, you can get components adding on that are simple and easy to upgrade without having, you don't need any web development skills, like zero. You just need to be able to click, select content, that's the one I want to choose, have a nice layout. And if again, thinking about perhaps building blocks, if you've ever been to a Lego store recently, you can actually go and get your own Lego minifigures made up with your own custom T-shirts and things like that. So you can go and get them printed nowadays. And I'll continue the analogy because, well, actually, if what you've got isn't fit for purpose, you can go and get a custom one made. You just need to go to the right people with the right outline who can say to you, well, what are you trying to achieve? What do you need from it? What are the maintenance things you want to try and do? What are the layout opportunities? And it can be done. And it's not prohibitively expensive either to do that now.
Okay. Then should we ask the audience kind of what pain point, if we can get a poll up, if what pain points they're experiencing?
Yeah, go for it. Let's do another poll. So just looking at the poll results from the last poll, actually, and it was a bit of a 50-50 split between, I think, a 2.6 average, so on a scale of 1 to 5 of how people rated their intranet, about the middle, with people like, yeah, actually, some happy, some not so happy, but an overall score of 2.6 out of 5 stars on rating it 1 to 5. So lots of people in the middle rather than actually edging towards feeling a positive or negative sentiment about it.
Okay. Perhaps while people are doing the poll, perhaps another question from Kelly. Actually, this could be kind of links in with pain points. So a large part of her organisation work out in the field on the road. How easy is it to access via an app URL? I've always assumed SharePoint is aligned to the business networks. Have always opted for cloud stored intranets.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and it's a common question that we get with people with frontline workers, or field workers. So Microsoft are actually educating people that Microsoft Teams can be known as the company app. So if you have a license for your field workers to have Teams, using Viva Connections, you can actually pull through your company intranet with the right level of licensing from Microsoft to surface your intranet content through the Teams app. And again, that's called Viva Connections. And if you haven't heard of Viva Connections, I'd recommend you look it up. And if you've not got it enabled in your organization, it's effectively pulling your intranet through as a little icon or a little tab available on your Teams mobile phone device, but also on your Teams web desktop app as well. You should really be thinking about enabling that for those frontline workers to be able to get involved. And then also inclusivity in terms of having conversations and things like Viva Engage, formerly known as Yammer. Again, frontline worker access and licenses for getting conversations happening with those people to engage them in your intranet, and campaign content, community building, knowledge sharing. All of those things can happen in collaboration through Viva Engage and your Teams app as well.
Okay, cool. And then in terms of pain points, I know that one that many people talk to me about is back to the beast, having a beast of an intranet, and it kind of, just starts to get out of control, and, the terrible G word, governance. But what would be, is a pain point? What would be your advice on that?
Yeah, so governance is always something I think you could probably run a whole session on its own around intranet governance. And I think that the term governance can mean different things to different people, but I think you have to have an owner, and often that's either internal comms, HR, or IT, and or a combination or an amalgamation of all three. And you've really got to just try and understand what's it there for. What are you trying to achieve? Is it a one-stop shop? Is it a communications portal? Is it a productivity hub where people come and land on to get their work done? And then you can kind of jump off to go and achieve those activities and do those things. But some simple things such as the creation of new sites and how you add new things into the mega menu, having a formal process to approve those things into your navigation, agreeing a structure that makes sense, not just in terms of your corporate language, but real user language of like when you're trying to find content and sticking to it so that it actually relates to your audience in terms of what your titles of your navigation would be. Because if I'm trying to find a policy, do I go to HR? Do I go to a me section or about me at work section? Different things to different organizations, but keeping to a structure that makes sense to your business. But also simple things like enabling personalization where it's relevant. So making sure that your audience targeting for content is set up, and working with your IT teams to make sure that personalization is possible within there. And again, governance can take lots of different spin-off angles here, but from a design perspective, always thinking about accessibility when it comes to governance and the inclusivity of people as well.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense, Alex. I've got a question from Jason. Does SharePoint out of the box allow connectivity to 365 to pull data? So, for example, your company directory.
Yeah, so again, I try not to go too much into the weeds here on technical aspects around that, but things like any 365 data can be pulled through into your intranet, whether you want to do things like searching for people. Again, one of the classic things that you will always ask for in terms of an intranet is a people search box. Can I find somebody really quickly through a people search box? Absolutely possible to do. A little bit of plumbing in the back end to do to make sure it's all set up correctly in your corporate environment with everybody's details. But yeah, absolutely, anything in 365 can be pulled through to your intranet. And again, that's one of the pros of keeping things in the Microsoft ecosystem, is that you've got all of those Lego bricks, but actually they work with each other. One of the things that my son does, if he ever finds any fake Lego, he chucks it away. He's like, I don't want any of that fake stuff. I want to just keep the actual Lego branded stuff, because it never quite fits on right. And I think that's bringing back that Lego analogy, because it's all part of the same ecosystem and it works really well together.
Yeah. And then Jack's been lucky enough to build their SharePoint from the ground up rather than have a beast that we've got to try and sort out. So have you got any advice around that initial kind of content product strategy that they should have beyond kind of just owners?
So I guess that question is thinking more about how do you get more people creating content that can be surfaced? Do you think I'm right in interpreting it that way?
I guess I guess it's the initial strategy of, I guess, if you're starting from scratch, I guess building that content.
Yeah, so again, when you think about the intranet being a one-stop shop or a hub, and you're starting to pull all of your key business information through, whether that's for HR, internal comms, content around news and key updates. Something that we see many organizations do is actually it's happening more and more in the last 2 to 3 years. It's a democratization of content creation. So we're actually encouraging people in the business to start creating content that can be surfaced up through and onto the intranet homepage, but doing it in a structured manner. And I'll actually cover off some of the new things that are coming out within Microsoft 365, which will lend itself to more people being able to create content. But in terms of applying a scale, again, always make sure your governance is in check, Jack, to make sure that you've got a plan of where things will sit in your organizational navigation, the hierarchy, and make sure that somebody's accountable for user flow, because there's nothing worse than going to an intranet and then thinking, how do I get from A to B to C to D, and then going back again, because I always want to come back to the home page. And that journey can sometimes be disjointed. And that sprawl is often when you know that you've gone too far and you've gone, oh, okay, now I don't know where I am and how to get back to the beginning again. So yeah.
So another comment from Jack, actually. So it's, and also kind of more about platforming best practice of design. So I guess going back to kind of the design piece, how can you kind of really, I guess, set best practice from the beginning?
Yeah, so again, one thing that we do as an organization is we work with people on making sure the design is on brand. It feels like your organization. When you actually want to log in, you want to feel like it's attached to your organization. But then doing things like some navigation, some tree testing for your design, for your navigation sections, for your top links, or however it's going to be. Then making sure the important content is at the top of the page, whether that's kind of key announcements or sections. And traditionally, again, we're seeing more and more intranets having a me bar, like what's relevant to me with my links, my tools to jump me off to go and do things. Getting a page layout and a page structure that's really user-led and really thoughtful about actually the purpose of this intranet is to get people to be productive in their day as well as engaged. Making sure your content structure is designed from the start to make sure that you're considering key company announcements, organizational campaigns that are going on, productivity things to help me get done. And then thinking about, okay, well, is it a social place where we want people to interact and have two-way conversations? Bring in a Yammer part. Video might be a key part of your communication strategy. Having a section where videos might be presented as well.
Yeah. Can you see the poll results, Alex, in terms of what was people's biggest pain points? But I've still got more questions coming in for you.
Here we go. So bang on theme for this. Thank you, everybody. The layout options are boring. So people think that SharePoint is just boring, and that's the thing that I think we can address. And you can't use your company branding, came in second. Sprawl contents, can't control the sprawl as well. I think that came in third. It's too complex for non-IT folk as well. That came in fourth. And it's too hard to fend off the brand. So it's too hard to police off-brand content, came in last. So yeah, or boring SharePoint. Boring SharePoint being top of everybody's mind.
So how is it not boring, Alex?
So probably a good time for me to segue and tell you what's going on in the Microsoft world, where I'm really pleased, actually, as a bit of a SharePoint advocate myself. I'm really pleased that Microsoft have woken up and they are listening. They're listening to your pain points of, it's boring. It doesn't feel like us. And design is important for everybody. So I'm just going to go through some of the most recent updates that have been announced. And actually, some of these are within the last couple of weeks as well. So some of them will be fairly new to many of you. So what's coming to make it less boring, simpler for you guys to own and navigate? So something that's coming down the line is a SharePoint brand center. So one of the things that we asked in the poll was about the brand police. Well, actually, Brand Center will allow you to have multiple brand identities within your SharePoint environment. So what you can see here in this one at the top, there's an actual Brand Center where you can have a custom font, and you can have custom color themes, custom color palettes, icons, different imagery and assets, and different color themes as well. So this is coming. I've got a bit of a timeline slide at the end. Then the other one I wanted to show you was actually down at the bottom here, there's a bit of an animation going on. So Microsoft have released a product called Microsoft Designer. It's a really simple creation tool, content creation tool. And what they've done is they've taken some of the features of that tool and they've brought it into SharePoint. So some of the things that you've always had to, and again, many of you will feel this, where you've had to go, oh, I want this image, but I want it cropped this way. Oh, I want it shaped slightly differently. Oh, you have to go and often go and do that in a design product and then bring it in. Oh, I don't have the skills in-house, so I'm gonna have to go to a design agency to go and do that. Gone are the days where you have to do those things, because you can do it all really simply. And again, when I think about what a website expectations are nowadays, and I'm no website expert builder, but I built one for my kids' football team, and I used an online tool that just allowed me to do everything, dragging in a web browser to be able to make it happen. Like little cropping that you're seeing of the images here, it's coming to SharePoint. You can do these things in the browser. So these are little things that are coming that are going to make it a lot easier to create content that's more engaging, be on brand.
Yeah.
Another
a very
thing
quick
that's
question
coming.
while you're there. Very quick question which is very relevant. Is from Kelly. Will Brand Center, is it going to be a standard, or will you have to upgrade for it?
My current understanding is that it's a standard, although Microsoft have just literally released something called SharePoint Premium. I haven't yet seen the table of understanding that tells me what features are going to be where. I might have to take that one away and come back to confirm that. But I haven't seen anything to say it's a premium feature for Brand Center. So I think that's going to be as part of the standard offering. But yeah, I will come back and validate that if I can find that source of truth. The next thing I just wanted to show you was actually, many of you will be familiar with how you create pages, right? So creating page content is one of the most important things. And if you've used PowerPoint recently, you actually get PowerPoint telling you, oh, we've got some ideas about how you can lay out this content. SharePoint is going to do the same thing. It's going to say to you, look, based upon the content that you've got on the page, how about we help you with these design ideas? It's actually taking some of the creativity, which is not everybody is blessed with creativity, right? it's actually helping you to come up with the ideas about how you can present that content and structure it with backgrounds based upon relevant content that it reads in the page, help you with dragging in images as well. So you've actually got the ability to take some media and then drag it into the page and just drop it in there. And it will also recommend you some design ideas. And the other thing that was just announced, I think it was announced this week actually, about co-authoring. So you're actually going to be able to do some co-authoring with your colleagues, the same as you would do in PowerPoint and any other Office application. You can come in, you can both edit, well, many of you can edit a page, but actually one thing that's always been a bit annoying about this is that not everybody's sat in an office anymore. You're not sat in the same place. So how do you do this and collaborate and give feedback? You don't want to go after Teams and have a separate conversation. Oh, I'm editing that part. What do you think about this part? You can do comments in a section now. So you can actually add a comment about, what do you think about this? Or I don't think this image is quite right. And you can add it in a section on a page, the same as you would do within a Word document or a PowerPoint. So that was, again, a really good collaborative hybrid world first thinking, and about how you can actually take advantage of improved design, improved collaboration, but also bringing in, like, different ideas about how content can be created. I thought this was a really powerful one.
Yeah, no, people seem to be liking that.
And next one, if you've heard anything in from Microsoft recently, I bet it's been related to Copilot. Yesterday, I spent a day with Microsoft, and I think the word Copilot was mentioned at least 120 times. So actually, Copilot is coming into SharePoint, and it is going to be a really powerful content tool. So again, I'm not here to tell you all about generative AI and what the benefits of it are, but actually it's going to bring some of the benefits of your large language models of going out and picking up content and looking at how content is worded. And also what you're seeing in this animation here is that you've just written some text on a page, and you can actually go and say, SharePoint, can you help me make this section look better? Like, again, from a creativity perspective, amazing. Like, you've got a tool that's going to help you do that, and it will actually come up with recommendations, and you can say, oh, I don't quite like that one, can you give me another variation? That's where Copilot is really going to come in. And again, I'm not here to do the virtues of Copilot, but you're seeing in this demo language, tone of voice, different ways of being able to phrase something. All of these things that are coming in as part of Copilot will be available in SharePoint. And then
cool. Well, we're starting to run out of time, so
True.
I've got a few more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me see if I can get through these last few questions. So from Justin, is there a simple poll widget or web part I'm not seeing? You can poll in Teams and embed a Microsoft form in SharePoint, but a poll seems to be missing.
Yeah, so Forms is the only way right now to do that natively. So you've got the ability to do polls in Forms and embed those, but there's nothing else natively around like a quick poll. That would be another a third-party add-on that you would need to use for that.
Okay, thank you. And then a question from Ertug. How possible is it to implement a custom-made application on your company's SharePoint intranet page?
It's possible. Again, I'm not the technical person here to kind of answer those things, but happy to pick that up afterwards and introduce some technical people that can help with that kind of conversation. There's a lot of it depends things in there, which I don't want to go into right now, but absolutely we can have a conversation about that.
Okay, great. And then from Anita, our SharePoint has become a beast. So they're in the process of another beast. So they're in the process of restructuring. What advice would you give to create a user-friendly landing page that incorporates both file location and comms on the business?
Talk to the audience. Like, you have to talk to your people about what their pain points are with their current intranet, why the beast has evolved into, being called a beast by many people. It has to start with your people, and what they genuinely need, and align it to what your business objectives are as well, because we're in this hybrid world now where we have lots of people in different areas, and they want to be able to access different content really quickly to get their jobs done faster. Start there. You have to start with listening. Always start with getting the why behind we need to go and do this before you just jump into taming the beast or phone Stacey Solomon.
She would do a great job. Oh, could you imagine if we could do some sort of celebrity thing with her? I'd love to do that. Sort your SharePoint out. Okay, I think that's all of the questions. So,
Right. So I just want to do one other slide, because one of the things that always happens is like, great, Alex, you've showed us loads of stuff. When's it coming? So I just want to finish on this slide here just to say some of the new things that are coming for SharePoint. These have been either shipped, planned this year. So this is Microsoft timelines. It could be into early next year. And then some of the new things around Copilot, co-authoring, the brand center, custom fonts coming next year. Again, there's a roadmap site you can go to have a look at this information, but just want to make sure you got to see when this is coming, because lots of people will be excited about the possibilities. But again, looking at the roadmap of when it's coming. So that by when it's coming, it just means it's when it's going to be available, when your organization adopts it. That's a conversation you need to have with your IT guys.
well, I think you survived the hot seat, Alex. Well done.
Oh, amazing. Thanks. Any other questions?
I think that's it for now.
Okay,
Some
well,
round of applause coming in for you, Alex.
yeah, no, thanks. And yeah, I felt like it was a bit of a hot seat moment there, and did my Stacey Solomon thing. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you have much success in sorting your SharePoint out.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.